Okay, here we go. This is going to be probably a big meandering segment. Buckle up, buckaroo, because there's a lot to talk about. There's things like performance. There's things like the final launch trailer. There's things like the digital Foundry access, the Denuvo stuff, Fortnite crossovers. Oh no, my camera just went out. It's cursed. It saw that and gave up. Dude, that's crazy. Hold on. So first thing, obviously, I guess while we're here, yes, they're doing a Fortnite crossover. There you go. I know a lot of you guys were wondering and we're really hoping for that, but they are doing a Fortnite crossover. Why? I don't know, man. Buy Crimson Desert on Epic Game Store and get the Cliff outfit in Fortnite as a gift with purchase. So that's their thing. I don't understand it, dude. I don't get the Fortnite crossover thing, but I think maybe it's that they have some data that, like, you know, 12-year-olds are more likely to play your game if there's some connection with Fortnite. I don't know. Maybe this is just like Fortnite's idea and they're like, we're going to do all the work and then you get a little bonus by going through the Epic Game Store. I don't know, but either way, that's happening. There you go. Who knew? That wasn't on your bucket list, was it? They also released the launch trailer for the game where they dropped a couple of new little gameplay snippets, some of which we've seen before. They also shared some new, as far as I'm aware, new boss fights, new zone footage. For example, this boss fight they're about to show, I don't think it's been seen before. This one. We haven't seen much footage of the desert areas either, so we're actually seeing that. I don't think we've ever seen that guy before. Lafus Roda action. A new weapon with a fan blade. Trains. Jetpacks. Why not? Parkour puzzles. What's happening? Exactly. Sensory overload the game. You know, sensory overload the game. Reviews, of course, lift on the 18th. Game comes out the 19th. We are in the home stretch. There's been other snippets of gameplay. I'm not sure where these come from, but like Zephyrus clipped this one. Oh, it's in the Digital Foundry. We'll get to the Digital Foundry one because they talk about the circus and some of that stuff. But all of this leads us to the Digital Foundry video about performance and their testing of the console versions, which we're going to look at. Then we're going to talk about some of the updates to the PC version as well that just came out. As far as I'm aware, this morning is when some of the latest reveals happened. So buckle up, buckaroo. But let's see what Digital Foundry thought about it. Dude, the rain does look crazy good.
When you attempt to explain a game like Crimson Desert to a colleague, it almost sounds like a fake game that you might have tried to pass off to your classmates back in the day. Like, I drifted my horse around the fields before stumbling into a giant circus performance, after which I made my way to the hills of the Great Bug Wars between giant metallic insects and gun-toting soldiers before visiting the fortress of the giant robots. After which I took a stroll on the beach before stumbling into a large city where I became a wanted criminal, only to escape by jumping off the castle's wall, to then find myself lost in a rainforest during a storm at night, before eventually emerging out into the Crimson Desert itself and climbing to its highest point to see the world that I had just traversed. Oh, and there's dragons you can fly around on, and giant bosses like Shadow of the Colossus, and you can swing like Spider-Man, and the combat makes you feel like a medieval John Wick. Like, seriously, I'm not one to normally get excited about open world games, as followers of DF might know, but Crimson Desert is crazy and ambitious in a way that I quickly became enamored with.
Well, I think it's also, we have gotten, like, at least it feels to me that the open world genre has stagnated for a solid, well, honestly, this whole generation. I'm trying to think of another open world game that really felt like systemically a big step up, you know? Like, there's obviously games that have higher fidelity, or that, oh, the ray tracing's better, you know, but it really feels like mechanically there hasn't been a lot of innovation. It's just like the same game that you've seen 1,000 times, but with like more bells and whistles, you know? It feels like that. So for like the vast majority of this generation, it just hasn't really moved. And I think that that's why this is so exciting to people, is that they see all these things and like, yeah, why can't I do that with other things? KCD2, I would say KCD2 even is a refinement of the first game that polishes it up to an amazing mirror shine. Don't get me wrong, I love KCD2. I think it's a masterpiece. But I think that in terms of its structure, it's basically just a perfection of the formula from 2017, but it doesn't feel like, you know, a lot of crazy, fresh or new ideas. It's just doing what that game wanted to do, but kind of perfected. And Forspoken, yeah, I guess that's one. They did do some things unexpected, I'll tell you that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it just feels like when we see something like Crimson Desert, it's just like, why this makes it look like other studios haven't even been trying, you know, like, because it's just so crazy ambitious. But this is what people would hope to see and expect to see from, you know, a company like Ubisoft that's spending 200 million on something, you know.
$20 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Search Marathon parody trailer. I've been hoping you'd see it.
Oh, really? I can pull that up in another tab. We can circle back to it. Thank you for the suggestion and for the 20. Very generous.
Just wanted to see what was over the next hill. It really brought back that thrill of exploration. But all this ambition does not come for free, and nearly all of the promotional footage leading up to launch has focused on the PC version, which looks obscenely good, leaving people to wonder, did they hide the console version? Is it actually any good? Well, DF friends, wonder no more. Everything you've been seeing here today thus far has been captured from the console version of the game, and today we'll be exploring that experience. For this initial video, however, there is a word of caution. We've only had access to the PlayStation 5 Pro version thus far, but fear not, the other consoles are incoming soon, and we'll tackle them in due time.
The PS5 Pro version looks really solid. I'm guessing the PS5 base version is just going to look like this, but with much lower resolution. That would be my guess. But I don't have any info on this. I haven't seen it. I would guess if you're an Xbox Series S player, okay, that's just my guess. Okay, I'm guessing it's not gonna be great, because the stat sheet that they've put out, I think, said it's 720p 30. I think is what they said. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it was 720p 60. I think it was 720 30. And I've played this game a lot. And bro, I would not want to play this on 30. Just the combat would not, I don't think it would be good at 30. Okay, maybe if you're used to playing at 30, it's easier for you to pick it up. But like, fam, I'm just going to be real with you. I wouldn't mess with this. Overall, I would say, you know, does it run? Yes. Does it run in a way that I would consider like you can enjoy the game? I would guess probably not, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. There's some games where I'm like, 30 is not a big deal. 60 is great, but 30, you can manage it. Like Red Dead 2, obviously I played Red Dead 2 at launch at 30 and loved it. This, I'm not sure if this is a game I would enjoy at 30, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm playing at 30. You have my pity.
For now, though, let's dive in.
Dive in. Yeah.
Looking for a new high-quality gaming display? MSI has a range of excellent options for all budgets across its wide monitor range, with selected models at sale prices. On the top-end QD OLED side, there's the MPG 321.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier on stream. If you've never played gaming on an OLED, bro, literally be ready, because once you switch to an OLED screen, if you have multiple monitors, it's going to make the other monitor look like trash. Just be ready, because if you've never played on it before and that's like you replace one of your monitors with OLED and the other is like an LCD, it's going to make you never want to play or do anything on the second monitor ever again. Like it's an actual game changer. It's crazy. It's like actual crazy. MSI versus KSI. There's got to be a joke there. Like MSI monitors have a big chin, KSI monitors have a big forehead. I don't know. There's got to be a joke there. We'll work on it.
Crimson Desert is a rare and exciting moment for us at Digital Foundry. In a landscape where Unreal Engine has become the default, and where its strengths and weaknesses are now largely predictable, Pearl Abyss has arrived with something genuinely new to explore. Their Black Space engine delivers results that are nothing short of remarkable. Yeah, there's some jank to contend with, of course, and we'll get to that, but the overall impression it leaves is striking. From performance to crowd behavior, animation, freedom, foliage, lighting, everything, it is a stunning game. And on PS5 Pro here, you actually don't lose that much. For starters, the game's ray tracing features are fully present and accounted for on the Pro. The ray-traced diffuse global illumination we highlighted in our PC preview, the per pixel solution, yeah, it's enabled here. This gives the game a fully dynamic, ray-traced driven lighting system. Sunlight pouring into a room naturally bounces across surfaces, creating dramatic, believable scenes, and it's all done fully dynamically. The same is true of local lights, which produce equally impressive results. You have a lantern in your inventory, for instance, which you can pull out at any time, and the light from your lantern produces ultra-dramatic scenes, especially at night where light is scarce. Scenes like this are particularly impressive. This battle here has lights being generated by the enemies that you're fighting, and all of it is fully real-time, with shadows and lights dancing realistically across the terrain. It makes the battle feel so dynamic. The lighting has a distinctive quality that makes the world feel more convincing than most current-gen games. The bright blue skies stand out immediately, and the environment around your character shows clear atmospheric light scattering. The real-time time of day system also pays off. Days and nights last longer than you usually see in games, and nighttime is genuinely dark, closer to something like, say, Dragon's Dogma, but with stronger, more consistent ray-traced lighting. Ray tracing is enabled across all 3 modes, by the way. Yes, there are 3 modes. So the overall lighting quality remains...
It's not that different, dude. Like that's what's kind of crazy. Like, again, it's just the rules that generally apply to games like this, which is what we've seen from companies like EA, Ubisoft, you know, maybe you could even point to like a Starfield type game from BGS. They just don't seem to really apply, you know, nowadays. They just don't. So like they literally are just doing it their own way and kind of breaking the rules.
Intact and consistent regardless of how you play. The only drawback here is that the denoiser occasionally struggles in more extreme cases. It's not as speckly as Resident Evil Requiem, but it's definitely still noticeable.
Well, we've seen this even in the preview footage.
In particular, I noticed streaking and noise in areas of high contrast.
Yeah.
Even so, lighting is a major pillar of...
And that's one thing, like, I think some people are more sensitive to it than others, but it's also one of those things, like, at least with Requiem, for me, you get used to it pretty quickly, like, and your brain just kind of tunes it out. It's the same thing, like, as we look through here, I'll pause when I see something, but like
the game's visual identity.
Usually these engines are built to put all of the polishing efforts and post-processing, like, quality is pretty much centered in these zones, because that's where your eyes spend the vast majority of their time when you're playing. When you're watching a YouTube video, you know, your eyes are going wherever they go, but that's why you often see artifacting and things where maybe they are cutting some corners on the outside edges.
And works beautifully overall. I'll be curious to see how the game looks without ray tracing though, because it seems like the Xbox Series S version does not have this feature. Beyond that, I noticed some really great visual touches.
Yeah, so like if you watch this, I'll just rewind, but watch like this edge right here on the left side, and you'll see like the shadows popping in.
Does not have this feature.
Popping in and out.
Beyond that, I noticed some really great visual touches that I wanted to highlight.
But is that a deal breaker that makes the game therefore bad? No, I don't think so. Some people will find that, really, really upsetting, but I think, that's this much of a problem. Something like, the game is only 20 minutes long, but $70. Like, that's a big problem. But something like that, very, very little, very, very little.
For instance, particle shadows. Smoke plumes cast real dynamic shadows that you can observe as you move around.
That's one of those things that you didn't realize most games don't support until this very moment. I did not realize, but now I'm thinking about it. Yeah. I can't think of another game that does like actual shadows cast on the particle effects and stuff. That's like actually insane that they just casually are doing that. But yeah, now that I think about it, I don't think like any other games that I know about do that.
Cast real dynamic.
It does that to me on Max FOV. Oh, what are you gonna do?
Dynamic shadows that you can observe as you move around. You can see that here if we look at this smokestack and then turn the camera around, you actually see the shadows from the emanating smoke. It's very cool.
Even when it's
and
not
attacks
in
from
frame.
Above actually do the same. It's a subtle feature, not something I've often thought about, but it really adds a surprising amount of depth when it hits. Ray traced reflections are also something I noticed. With so much water and other reflective surfaces, it's impressive that every mode on PS5 Pro actually includes them. The system manages to blend ray traced reflections with SSR and assign distance fields for distant geometry. This is one area where I noticed a little bit of a difference in the performance mode though. The BVH tightens up around the camera, reducing the overall reflection radius. The results still look excellent, but it relies more heavily on the fallback solutions. But honestly, even still, it looks excellent, and the water itself is kind of a standout. Now, I discussed this with Alex in our initial PC preview, but the way the wave system works is super cool. Waves break and split around rocks, for instance. They wash up on shore and recede naturally. Wet surfaces pick up a specular sheen, and characters themselves even generate ripples that interact convincingly with the environment and other ripples. When you climb into the mountains, you'll see water sort of streaming down the mountainside, right? And the way they've handled all the directionality of the water itself is extremely impressive.
Yeah,
but
that's
crucially,
crazy.
the water also looks great at scale. When standing on a mountain looking out across the ocean, for instance, it's still convincing and beautiful.
Well, one of you guys was asking in chat earlier if you think, or if I think that they're going to add like ships and stuff, or if there's ships like in the game that we haven't seen yet. Full transparency, I don't know if there's ships in the game. At this point, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me, even if there's not ships in the game day one, if they add them in like an expansion at some point. Because bear in mind, like they've already been talking, the CEO went and did an earnings call where he talked about some of their long-term goals and vision for the game. And one of the things he said was that they fully expect to be able to, if the game performs well, is what he prefaced it. But if the game performs well, they want to go and explore adding like multiplayer with like a co-op mode. So you can go explore and do combat together with friends. Possibly even working it more closely to like GTA Online, where they would have a totally separate instance of the world so it doesn't interfere with your single player story, right? Which should be, in theory, easy enough for them to do because, again, this was an engine initially built to run an MMO. So having multiple players doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Every time we've asked them about that, they go, nope. Because I think that they don't want to get ahead of themselves, but that is something that they've had in the back of their heads that they would do if the game is really successful, according to their CEO, okay? Beyond that, I don't think it's that crazy to say if this does well and they do an expansion for it, like, I don't know how many copies this will sell, but let's say it pops off and it does 10 million, but you better believe they're going to do an expansion. Wouldn't shock me if they do a water expansion, a ship expansion, where they let you get a ship and sail it around. Again, these are MMO devs. They're not afraid of massive expansions that do crazy stuff. You know, they're not afraid of that. Is there a mortgage system? No comment.
I also love how they simulate the penetration of light through
Simulate the
surface of
penetration.
the water, like standing in deep water here with your lantern. But the water in general is just beautiful throughout this game and a real visual highlight. The way they're able to scale from nearby ripples to a full ocean is very impressive. And this idea of scale is kind of what surprised me the most. The developers have managed to deliver this combination of ridiculous near-field detail at a huge scale that you can appreciate at a distance. Just stop and look around, right? Every scene is packed with this fine-grained detail. There's an absurd amount of foliage variety, for instance, and all that foliage is affected by weather conditions blowing realistically in the wind. When a storm starts to wind up, the trees whip around violently around you. But beyond that, they also react directly to the player and NPC movement as well.
Like, as far as I can tell, I'm willing to go out on a limb and say I think this is the most, at least to a consumer, it's like the most impressive engine that I can think of. Because even other games like the Star engine for Star Citizen that's capable of doing like basically whole galaxy simulation stuff, it runs like hot donkey ass. Like, it's impressive, but you need a supercomputer to run it. And even then, it doesn't run it well. Unreal is ubiquitous. Everybody can use it, but it's obviously got its own fair share of like shortcomings. RE Engine looks better. I don't think RE Engine is capable of doing the stuff they're doing here. Like, it's very good at what it does. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think they're the fidelity they achieve, especially in like cinematics and the animation quality for tighter environments is outrageous. And they got the version of that game that runs on the Switch 2 is crazy impressive. Like, there's so many things about it, but I think just in terms of sheer scale, like, this engine just breaks my brain. It just breaks my brain. Rage Engine is the best. Well, that's the thing. I guess I should preface it by saying we haven't seen what a current gen Rage Engine does. We'll see that with GTA 6, but we don't know what that looks like, right? Like, we've seen trailers, but we don't know what that's going to be like. It's very likely that we see GTA 6 and it's like, okay, that's ridiculous, but yeah, they should license it for open world games. Well, this is the thing that is the benefit of having a proprietary engine, right? Is that now people are saying what you just did. People are going, why can't we get an Assassin's Creed with this? Why can't we get a Witcher game with this? But that is their unique competitive advantage, is that this company, Pearl Abyss, can use their engine to do stuff nobody else is doing, to do stuff that everybody else is like wishing they could pull off. And you better believe right now there's like engine engineers over at BGS working on Creation Engine 3. Totally different, by the way, than 2. Or engineers at Ubisoft, engineers at EA, engineers at all these companies, and they're watching this video going, how in the shit did they do that? You better believe they're wondering that, because it's absolutely crazy. Decima is very impressive. I'll give you that one. Decima is very impressive.
Yet it's perhaps the distant rendering of the trees that impressed me the most. You see, this is an area where games typically struggle. Yet here, trees far off in the distance are actually properly lit and shadowed, while still giving the perception of detail. Shadowing distant trees has such a positive impact on the overall visual design, and it's something that most other games either skip completely or do in a very blobby, simple fashion. And this sort of insane detail can also be said of the surfaces and textures throughout the game. These guys went wild with displacement mapping. It's not a new technique, obviously, but it's everywhere. What do I mean? Well, essentially, just look at the ground here. This allows the developers to simulate depth within a texture, lending that surface increased perceived detail without leveraging more geometry.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Pretty much every surface you look at has some level of depth and complexity to the geometry, and of course they're doing it without having to just have a ridiculous number of triangles, but by using those displacement maps. What's DokeV? Dude, DokeV is the game this team is moving on to after Crimson Desert. I'm going to show it to you because you're not going to believe me that this is being made by the same team, but it is. This is like the same company, okay? And this is the same engine as Crimson Desert. Okay. Buckle up, buckaroo. Just quick one. I'm going to mute it because I'm pretty sure it's copyrighted. But this is the game they're doing after Crimson Desert. They're going to finish this. I don't know how to explain this, being honest. I have no idea what it even is. But apparently it's like a massive open world adventure game that's also got like life sim elements and is supposed to basically feel like one of those like animated movies. I guess I don't really understand it. I don't know, man. It's just I don't get it. But this is what the Black Space engine is also being used for. Now, this trailer is from 2021, going on 5 years ago, okay? So this has been in the works for ages as well. So I'm sure it's only running way better than it was in this clip. But yeah, this is what they're doing after that. So there you go. Kids Bop GTA. Dude, that might actually, no joke, that might be a pretty good way of describing it. Anyway, continuing.
Stone, every brick and just about any other surface in the game is just exploding with visual detail like this. There are virtually no flat surfaces in Crimson Desert. I've never seen this technique executed at scale quite like this, and I do think it adds a lot to the presentation. But there is one downside. It can produce some visual bugs at times. Something I noticed especially in that first town. Stuff like this, for instance, right? The larger issue can be seen when you look at areas where the texture sort of protrudes from the geometry, like this, on edges. There's sometimes flicker and pixelation along these surfaces. You'll notice it on rock walls, trees, and various other edges, just like that. It's worth mentioning, though, that this bothered me more when I first started the game, but after you start to make progress, you just kind of forget about it. The overall majesty of the visuals kind of takes over. Either way, it's cool to see such a great technique return here. There's more to discuss in the visual side, but honestly, for now, I feel like it might be a good time to talk about the specifics around the PS5 Pro version of the game.
Okay.
After all, a lot of people are wondering just how it runs, and
even like that, you can see that.
PS5 Pro version of the game.
So like watch, we got a little pop in. Right there. See that? See that? Right there. Blink and you'll miss it. Blink and you'll miss it. It's only like 3 frames. Only like 3 frames, but there you go. This is one thing I remember Will mentioned in our interview with him. He's like, I don't want to say we've solved pop-in, but we have some amazing solutions for it. I think pop-in is just a reality of like open world games. It's just, it is what it is.
At Caleb's92 donated $20 through Super Chat. NGL, this looks like a PDF file's dream game.
Oh, DokeV. I thought you were talking about Crimson I was like, because of the rocks? I was thoroughly confused. But DokeV, because it's like Kids Bop kind of. Okay, okay. That makes more sense than the Crimson It's like, because of the horses? What? I don't. I'm not tracking. That makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you for the 20. Thank you for the 20. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand DokeV. We'll have to do a deep dive on it. I don't really understand the game or what it is. I don't know. There's also a name for that art style. I don't remember what it is, but there's a name for that specific art style of humanoids, and I don't know what it is, but anyway.
After all, a lot of people are wondering just how it runs, and while you might have a good idea by now, there is more to discuss. So as the spec sheet released by Pearl Abyss notes, there are 3 modes on most consoles, including PS5 Pro. Optimal, which is the performance mode, balanced, and quality. This translates to internal resolutions of 1080p, 1440p.
Honest feedback to Pearl Abyss. Honest feedback. At least to an American like me, optimal would suggest it's optimal. It's the best. Okay? So when I hear optimal, I don't think performance mode. I think the best mode. Right? Am I alone in this? So when I hear optimal, I'm assuming that's quality when they mean performance. Okay? So I'd recommend that they swap the name out for like performance mode. I think that would work better. Because it's hit my ear weird both times he's brought it up. But anyway. Yeah, optimal mode or performance mode, 1080p, balance 1440, and quality at 4K.
And 4K respectively, and our counts confirm this to be the case. Where it differs from the user experience you might have, however, is that the current build we had access to is running with the original PSSR, as opposed to what we affectionately call PSSR2.
PSSR2!
Thus, image quality wasn't great. Apparently PSSR,
Which again, I'm sorry, whoever greenlit PSSR, like I get it, PS, PlayStation, they were like PlayStation super resolution. Bro, the fact that nobody brought up that it sounds like pisser is insane. Like that made it through marketing reviews and everything is unbelievable. It's a good, like 2.0, PSSR 2.0 is really impressive. It's very, very good. Way better than the 1.0 version. But like, bro, how nobody brought that up is crazy. Or if they did bring it up, they didn't think it was a big deal. Because within like an hour of them revealing it, everybody was calling it pisser.
PSSR2 is planned for launch, but in
Pisser 2 has a stronger flow of data. Oh, that's good. That's good.
its current state,
Wider. I'm not going to do that. Never mind.
I can't really judge image quality yet, aside to say that the usual PSSR artifacts are indeed visible, with smearing around foliage and some ray tracing noise being the most obvious. It'll be very interesting to see how this changes with the upgraded PSSR. But the real reason to use the various performance modes actually stems from performance, and Crimson Desert offers some impressive flexibility here. Essentially, by default, each mode corresponds to a different frame rate target: 60 FPS for performance, 40 for balanced, and 30 for quality. The balanced mode, of course, requires a 120 Hz output to function correctly. The performance mode, though, puts up a good fight. I poured a solid 20 hours or so into the game, and most of that was spent in performance mode. By and large, that 60 FPS target is maintained. I was surprised by how good it is overall. But it was also enlightening playing this way without any sort of VRR, as it did help me identify specific areas where it can and does drop. Most of the time, that involves larger crowds. Anything involving tons of NPCs or enemies can drop.
Wait, Jesus, dude, did you see that?
Involves larger crowds. Anything involving tons.
Look at the swarms, dude. Like, okay, it breaks my brain.
Of NPCs or enemies can drop the frame rate.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
not to say
surprised.
there aren't occasional dips in quieter spots like this, but overall, most of the drops will happen when it's busy. The most significant of which occurred during the battle for Bug Hill, as I like to call it. Here, war is waging and casualties include the frame rate, which drops significantly, making it far and away the worst spot I found in the game so far. It starts out okay, sometimes hitting 60, sometimes dropping into the 50s, as you do. But once you actually reach the top of Bug Hill, the specific encampment here, we start to see some major drops. And I think this is actually made worse by kiting enemies around, because I came here before my character was ready and would die instantly if hit, so I have a ton of insects chasing me around. And as a result, we actually see the frame rate slip all the way into the 30s. I believe this section is very specifically CPU limited, as it deals with so many active enemies at once. It makes sense. You can trigger similar results in some of the game's.
Benefit of that is that it probably doesn't perform significantly worse on the base PS5, because the clock, like the CPU is only like 10% better on the Pro. So I guess there's a silver lining there, but yeah, it seems like there will be areas where the console version might struggle bus. But if it's CPU bound, then that also means that the higher quality settings should also be fairly flat.
Large cities, especially when causing a ruckus like this. Once the crowd starts to panic and the guards rush the player character, the frame rate definitely takes a hit as well. Crucially, it is not the norm at all, so don't take that away from it. But it does show you that certain situations can bring the performance to its knees. In comparison, the 30 and 40 FPS modes are largely more stable overall, holding their targets reasonably well. Like here, I visited Bug Hill in quality mode, and we're rendering 4 times the number of pixels here. It's 4K mode, right? Plus the graphics quality is increased even. Yet despite dipping into the 30s in performance mode, we're actually hitting a stable 30 FPS here in that quality mode, which is pretty great. Weirdly enough, the balance mode actually manages to hit a pretty stable 40 FPS in this area too. All of this can be influenced by dynamic elements, of course, like this run here in the 40 Hz mode. The reason it looks kind of fuzzy is that it started raining. So I'm running through this area in the rain. And yeah, we still see some dips here, but overall it's pretty good. Alas, this is a surprisingly heavy game, and
There's one thing I hope that for next gen they do is that they actually give a significant CPU boost, because I think the CPU stuff is what's really limited the scope and scale of a lot of these games that have heavy simulation and lots of NPCs and stuff like that. And instead, you know, most of the effort's been put into like GPU stuff for ray tracing and all that. Like I'd much rather I'd much rather them put a little effort into things that actually are quantifiable with like mechanics.
don't mean in terms of performance, I mean the way it feels to play. It seems intentional, but at 30 FPS, the camera and the character movement feel less responsive than I'd have normally liked. Thus, I do recommend the 40 or 60 FPS modes, which help a bit. The thing is, the game feels similarly heavy on PC, even at higher frame rates, so I think it's a design choice. Now, if not for capturing, I think I'd have probably stuck with the 40 FPS mode, since I feel like it finds a nice balance between image quality and performance, but once we factor in the new PSSR, it might actually make sense just to stick with performance the entire time. The thing is though, if you drop into the options menu, you might notice something else. There's a VSync toggle. Let me start by saying that if you're not using a VRR display, do not turn on this option. It is horrifically bad and clearly not intended for use without VRR.
For the love of God, do not do that. Oh my God, dude. So there's some graphical problems that like I don't care about, that like I can tune out, like the flickering or like hazing and stuff. I'm good. I can handle that. But bro, screen tearing triggers the fudge out of me. Like I cannot handle screen tearing. There's something about it that just makes me angry. Like I just hate it. So yeah, this is bad.
Start by saying that if you're not using a VRR display, do not turn on this option. It is horrifically bad and clearly not intended for use without VRR.
And you know there's people that would do that and be like, fix your game. It's like you kind of did that to yourself.
I mean, just look at this. The results are extremely awful. Don't use it, trust me. But it does become useful when combined with VRR. But mainly just in performance mode. You see, despite the 120 Hz container, the VRR in this game does not seem to support low frame rate compensation like some other major first-party titles. So when it dips out of the VRR range, screen tearing reappears. This makes the setting unsuitable for quality and even balanced mode because tearing does appear. When coupled with performance mode, however, it's legitimately cool and allows frame rates that go above 60 FPS. It's honestly the most responsive and smooth feeling mode in the game, and as you can see, manages to keep frame rates under control. I did a full walk from one area to the other, and it gives a good idea of what you can expect. Using this mode, you won't really detect frame rate dips at all outside of perhaps places like Bug Hill. Honestly though, when it comes to overall performance, I do think the results here are pretty good. When you consider the scope of the game and the reasonably high resolution targets, more than we see with any other UE5 games, that's for sure, the results are pretty impressive. Reflecting on all the various big open world games this gen, Crimson Desert is one of the better performers overall. It's not perfect by any means, and I do have some issues with certain image quality things, but still, I think it's fair to say that the console version, at least on PS5 Pro, is very good. So, with the performance situation firmly established on PS5 Pro, we await the other consoles to see how it stacks up there. But regardless, there are a few other cool things I wanted to talk about that caught my eye.
Yeah, my guess is, I mean, again, they pointed it out already with the stat sheet in the spec sheet. For base console performance, the base PS5 and Series X and S, I think for the Series X and the PS5, playing on performance mode is probably going to be the way to go. 30 FPS is maybe, you know, if you can handle it, that's cool. Good for you. I'm proud of you. I'm just somebody with this game. I've played a lot of it. I would not play this at 30. Like high intensity action sequences require like pretty tight responses. And so playing at like 30 would be really tough for me at least. So like Series S, I'm sure it runs on the Series S at 720p 30, but I would be hard pressed to play that version, you know,
while playing this game. And to do that, I want to take you on a small journey. You see, early on, I made the decision to test the open world, not knowing what was in store for me nor how large the game world really was. So I set a waypoint just out in the middle of nowhere to sort of guide me in the proper direction, and I just went. It started smoothly enough. Riding across these gorgeous fields on my horse, I marveled at the realistic sky rendering, the atmospheric light scattering. It felt so realistic and impressive. I appreciated the sheer density of the environment around me, the grass blades swaying in the wind, the trees, the foliage, the interactions with the horse, the way every hoof matches the terrain. Yeah, there's definitely some visible LOD popping along the way, which I don't love, but given the scale and the performance, it's understandable. Eventually, I reached this lengthy wall running across the terrain and decided to ride full speed towards this scaffolding, and was surprised at how seamlessly you could leap off your horse and grab onto the structure. Very cool stuff. Of course, it was seemingly for nothing, as my horse was able to just walk right through here on the bottom when I called him. Oh well. So I continued, and my next idea was to sort of wreak havoc in a nearby field to test the game's physics and performance. That's where I discovered horse drifting, where you can essentially sharply spin the horse around in circles in a way that feels awesome. Impressively, most smaller objects in the environment can be knocked down or destroyed by simply ramming into them, making this a lot of fun. There is a small delay when destroying physics-based items, but still, it feels really great. I then rode towards a small nearby village and attempted to knock down these things as well, only to mistakenly reveal an enemy that was just hiding in the middle. Then suddenly, from off-screen, a giant guard leaped into action and eliminated him immediately. Whoa. With that, though, I decided to continue forward, looking for anything interesting, and it's here that I noticed the somewhat noisy ray-traced lighting visible along the foliage here, and that reminded me that we're looking at the original PSSR. We'll be very curious to see how this looks with the upgraded PSSR at launch. But moving forward, I decided it was time to play around with some guards just to sort of test the AI, right? The results, I thought, were interesting. So after angering them, I ran away and decided to climb up on the roof of this house just to see what would happen. Turns out these guards can climb as well, and they quickly tried to overwhelm me. While the shields clipping through the roof looks a bit awkward, the result of fighting them on the roof was really interesting. I was trying to kick them off, knock them down the slope, etc., and was doing okay, but eventually they overwhelmed me. So I tried to run again, and this time they killed me, causing me to respawn nearby. And it's from this respawn point that I randomly stumbled upon this circus, and honestly, this one really surprised me as well because it felt strangely lively. There was no story reason to be here, at least not yet.
Okay, napping.
But wow, look at this. The frame rate, of course, was a little unstable here, but I was surprised to see that there was an actual circus performance happening inside this tent.
Just watch how every one of the NPCs, like, these are all motion captured. Like, it's crazy. Because again, I'm coming off of AC Shadows, okay? Like, I'm sorry, I'm a little scarred. AC Shadows, I thought, did a lot of interesting things. I think it was a step in the right direction, at least thematically and in terms of structure for the franchise. I liked it more than I liked Valhalla in terms of that setup and everything, but it was kind of undeniable that they turned the dials down a lot when it came to motion capture, when it came to kind of handcrafted, bespoke performances like that. You would walk into a city and all of the NPCs are standing arms down. If you have a conversation, it's all procedural. None of it is actually handcrafted or motion captured at all. And so seeing this is crazy.
The frame rate, of course.
They're all motion captured. This one's dancing. They're dancing together. Like, all of this has been motion captured specifically for this. Like, you just don't see that level of effort nowadays. It's crazy.
Was a little unstable here, but I was surprised to see that there was an actual circus performance happening inside this tent, all lit with real-time ray tracing. Very, very cool, right?
Look at the performance jumping on their shoulders.
I stumbled back outside and figured I'd mess with the AI again, so I tried to attack NPCs. This revealed that when you first swipe at NPCs, they actually just fall back and avoid your blade. But if you keep doing this, eventually the circle of pain draws around your character, and everything within this circle that is, say, a guard or an enemy will suddenly come for you. What impressed me though is the way in which the crowds dispersed, not just randomly in all directions, rather they actually made their way as a group towards the exit in a panic.
Dude,
as
look.
the guards then entered the scene to take me out. Which recalls
Look how
something
many there
cool
are.
about fighting, because you see similar behavior with enemies as well. If, say, you're fighting some bandits and you kill most of them, there's a point where some remaining enemies might actually freak out and just attempt to run away from you. You can, of course, take them out with an arrow if you're a good shot, mind you. It's a neat touch that adds a tinge of realism to the encounters. I really like the AI behavior in this game. From there, though, I kept moving forward, and eventually that's where I found Bug Hill, as I mentioned earlier, and this was quite a shock when I first found it. You see, up until this point, everything had this sort of grounded medieval flavor, but suddenly we had mechanical insects, airships, balloons, orcs, all fighting on the side of the mountain, and it looked super cool. This is when I did some of my performance testing, of course, but eventually I survived Bug Hill and found this amazing orc city built upon a mountain, which looked wholly unlike anything else I'd seen in the game yet. The sheer level of detail, the pipes, and the ornate structures really impressed. But it was time to continue, and as night fell, I noticed a city in the distance, and that city seemed to be illuminated by electric lights. Sure enough, it was. This sort of farmland was just spread out across the terrain. At first, we thought it was Nazca lines, but it's actually an electric farm of some sorts. Very strange, very different mood as well. The HDR in this scene, by the way, was very impactful. I loved both the lights with the strong highlight, as well as the beautiful night sky with its gorgeous volumetric cloud system. So I continued, climbing the mountain in the darkness with just my torch, fumbling around. Night is really
the
dark
plane
in
up
this
there?
game, and it makes navigation more treacherous. I ended up exploring the cliffs, engaging a few foes, before eventually finding this view, which is just awesome. Rather than diving in, though, I decided to take a left turn of sorts and make my way down to the shore to check out the water and take in the view. The water was beautiful. Of course I was ready to capture this scene. It really feels like you're standing at the edge of the world, but of course you're not. So I kept moving, this time walking down the beach, eventually reaching this sort of rocky terrain. That was where I decided to test the climbing system again, and yeah, it works similarly to Breath of the Wild. You have a stamina meter and can climb most surfaces. It's actually influenced by heat and cold as well, which makes it harder to climb such surfaces. What I really like about it, though, is the way the animation system successfully matches your character's hands to logical positions as you climb the surface. It feels very gratifying as a result. Eventually, I made it to the top, and waiting for me up here turned out to be a rainforest. And the mood shifted greatly because it's not just a rainforest, it actually started to rain. Your local torch lights
That's why they call it that.
up the droplets around you in a beautiful fashion as the area around your character is battered by the storm. Other lighting effects like this random blue glow from something produces dramatic results as well. What I loved about this sequence in the jungle is that the fog and rain combined with the thickness of the trees really limits your view. It really feels isolated, as if you were actually exploring a deep jungle. Along the way, I navigated rapids, appreciating that awesome water system, dealt with a few more enemies in their encampments, walked along some cliff sides, including making some leaps of faith, before eventually reaching the edge of the forest itself. And that's when the rain started to let up, which highlighted another cool detail. Rain actually leaves behind puddles that persist for hours of game world time. It's not just a binary thing where it's rainy or not. It actually comes and goes realistically, leaving its mark, something that really adds to the realism. By this point, though, I managed to climb up the side of this steep.
That's a synchronization point if I've ever seen it. You got to do a leap of faith from there down into a bale of hay. I've seen that before. Call it a hunch.
cliff and found myself staring out across the Crimson Desert itself. From the opening village to the top of this mountain here, it took me roughly 4 hours of traversal and exploration. So yeah, I think you get it by now. The amount of variety on display here is outstanding.
It took him 4 hours to go that stretch. That's crazy. Because if you bear in mind, like, look at this. So talk to the chief of Tinkerton. That's been his objective this whole time. And that is 4.5 kilometers away, like off over there somewhere. So that's how far he's gone. But like all of that, like meandering and exploration, 4 hours. That's crazy.
And what I've shown you is just a small taste, a tiny path through the game world, a simple walk from one part of the map to another that became a memorable adventure. And this is before exploring the character's abilities or allowing the story to get started.
Yeah, bear in mind, that is with a like level 1 character. Like he's done no stamina, health upgrades. He has no movement upgrades or improvements. Like that is starting point. And so I'm sure exploration's even more engaging beyond that once you have abilities.
I haven't felt this need to explore since games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or perhaps Breath of the Wild. This is without a doubt one of the most impressive open world experiences I've ever had. I genuinely found myself asking the question, how the heck did they do this over and over again? It really is that cool. And all of it worked great on PlayStation 5 Pro, even in this pre-release state. Of course, it's not perfect. As noted, performance can dip at times. There are some visual bugs with the displacement mapping in RT, and in some cases actual bugs, like here in the desert where I found myself swimming above the water at one point. Plus the loading sequence when loading a save is weirdly lengthy with this animation and music that sort of plays out before you dropped into the world, which thankfully respawning on death is very quick and there's no other loading times during actual gameplay, so it's not a huge deal.
That's one thing I saw in my preview that I've already talked about, but in the preview I found that like loading in for the first time, like from the game closed to opening it, loading in, is lengthy. It takes a while. Kind of reminds me of Red Dead 2, honestly. Like Red Dead 2 also has a long load in time. Once you're in, there's no load screens, but getting in takes a minute.
Even with all that though, this is fantastic on PS5 Pro. They actually did it. Which brings us to the end of our first contact with the game. There's still so much more to explore here. Like, I feel like I've just gotten started. And again, this is not a game that was super high on my hype list. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And yet, what I've played here just felt unbelievable at times, even on the console. So I'll be curious, of course, how it plays on other machines. And that's something we'll report on very soon. That's going to do it for this video, however. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, baby. Oh baby, I mean, I'm gonna be real. Yeah, PS5 Pro owners, rise up. So there's still questions, obviously, with base console performance and like Series S and X performance. My guess is PS5 and Series X performance will be roughly in line. And based on the stat sheet that they've provided, I think it's probably in that range of like 1440p for quality, and then probably 1080p for performance mode. And that's pretty standard to other AAA like games that we've seen recently. So I think that's where it's probably going to sit. The real question comes with like Series S, because that is the only version of the game that will be running without ray tracing. And I don't think we've seen any looks at what that looks like. So I would be cautious, you know, wouldn't get my hopes up too much that that runs or looks particularly good. But, you know, if you don't have another option, then maybe that's worth it. That being said, overall, really impressive. Really intriguing, and I am excited to see how this goes. Obviously, he pointed out some like bugs towards the end. That's the other question with this, is with any big game, you got to wonder about bugs, because that's just an artifact of them. Like there's always going to be bugs when your game is massive. How impactful they are is the bigger question. And also, you know, whether they are interrupting or if they're easily fixed. If it's something where it's like it's a bug, but you reload, that's not that big of a deal. It's obviously frustrating and you'd prefer it not to happen. But if it's something where it's like, nope, it has to be patched, that's obviously a bigger problem if there's like soft locks and things like that. In my preview, I ran into some bugs that were fixable with just reloads, but I don't know if that's going to be the case with the final version, if there's going to be bigger bugs or whatever. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. But overall, very, very impressive. The review embargo lifts on the 18th. And I mean, I'm thinking that this is just going to keep popping off. I mean, dude, they're getting to the point where regular tweets about the game, just showing gameplay and little tidbits about it, are starting to go viral regularly. This could end up being like, as some have suggested, the second biggest game of the year. I mean, we're talking selling, you know, the best-selling game of the year, just under GTA 6. I think it's like absolutely crazy. It's getting crazy. That being said, I do want to be clear, based on my preview. This is what I said after my preview, okay? I think this is a game some people are going to love, and it will be a generational open-world game that they devour. For some people, they're just not going to get it. Because some people, what you just saw demonstrated here with like, I'm going to go explore and walk over there and see what I find over here. I found the circus. Let me go explore the circus. That's how some people play. For others, they hear that and they're like, no, tell me where to go. Where's my quest marker? Where's the yellow paint? They need more guidance. That's okay. There's lots of great games that have more guidance and more yellow paint. That is not this game. That is not this game. To be very, very clear, this is a game that like gives you a couple of like mechanics. Not a couple, a lot of mechanics, but they give you a bunch of tools and they're like, go make your own fun, go crazy, and just figure it out. And so some people love that. Some people are going to hate it for sure. Now, the only other thing to circle back on with this is something that popped this morning, which you can already see people mentioning in some of the comments. For example, Joshua Lambert mentioned, hopefully Denuvo doesn't completely tank the performance like it does for a lot of titles. Nick Tech replied, adding Denuvo 1 week before release worries me a lot. It could tank the performance if it is not implemented properly. And this is one thing that I'm also genuinely intrigued by. So Denuvo, if you don't know, because we might have some I know we have some console players and stuff hanging out with us. So let me pull this up so that you can see. Let's see. So this was put out this morning or late yesterday, it looks like. Crimson Desert reveals it will use controversial DRM just a week before launch. They have an update though. It will use Denuvo on Steam. Angry fans who already pre-ordered it. Basically, Denuvo is a third-party DRM or anti-tamper software. And the big limitation that has caused people to really get riled up and upset, even to the point of some canceling their pre-orders and stuff, is that they have a limit. So the limit is 5 different PCs within a day is the machine activation limit. So to be clear, there's kind of 2 ways of looking at this, okay? With my understanding of how this works, the different PC activation is limited to the hardware of your PC. So for example, if you like swapped out your GPU or like you boot the game and you're like, okay, that's cool. I'm also going to install it on my gaming laptop and my Legion Go, and I'm going to install it on all these devices. I'm going to upgrade my GPU. Now that's considered as another PC on the list and everything. So it tallies up. And the limiting factor is 5 different PCs within a day, meaning if you try to boot the game on over 5 devices in a day, what they consider to be devices, it will not allow you to. It'll give you, I don't know if it's an error code, if it just refuses to boot. I don't have 5 gaming PCs or devices to test it on, but my understanding is it will just not boot, right? In addition, Denuvo has a long and storied history hurting performance on games. Now, my understanding is it's gotten a lot better over the years, and it when implemented properly, it doesn't affect performance that much. Like it'll affect it maybe like 4 or 5 frames per second out of 130, if you're really cranking it, but it doesn't help performance at the very least. Now, this is why people are frustrated by it. It also is just like another factor that prevents you from like tinkering with your game. It locks down a lot of the files and things so that you can't mess with it. Now, to flip it and look at the other side, okay, from Crimson Desert's developer Pearl Abyss and what they're doing. I mentioned this earlier in the stream, but I realized I don't think that this was largely public, so I'm going to keep this vague. There was a big AAA game in the last 2 years. I'll keep it vague. But there was a big AAA game in the last 2 years where they like sent out review codes and stuff for the game, like 2 or 3 weeks before launch. I don't remember exactly what it was, but a reviewer, I think it was somebody with like a magazine or that you've never heard of or something like that. But it was a reviewer went and like straight up copy and pasted all of the files for the game and put it in a Google Drive or a Dropbox or, one of those cloud services. And they started selling access to that drive through like whatever online means. I don't know how you would even do that, but they apparently started doing that. And so the game started leaking ahead of time because they just opened it up to people. And then some dude went and started selling access to the game early, which is really stupid because they figured it out pretty quickly. I mean, it was relatively easy to track it back and figure out what happened, but somebody was doing that. Some reviewer was like selling access to the game early. And so a lot of other studios were like, oh, we don't like that. So they're locking it down with DRM to try and prevent things like that from happening. It also is just a general anti-piracy approach because they lock it down until it's cracked by tech wizards. It's locked down, so you can't just pirate the game. And with this game being really hotly anticipated, I think they're worried about piracy, so they're introducing the DRM stuff. Perlibus, I'm sure, would also say it's 5 different PCs within a day. The next day it resets. So even if you swapped out PC parts multiple times and you hit that 5 device limit, just boot it tomorrow. Just do it tomorrow. So I think where a lot of the outrage from some, and to be clear, it seems right now like it's a group of passionate PC players that feel specifically misled because they might have pre-ordered the game and they didn't know that this was being added. As confirmed by Steam DB, this text was added to the store page on Thursday, so it was not known that they were going to do this prior to that. And Denuvo DRM, while it has certainly improved over the years, is not a fan favorite among PC players. The DRM is designed to stop people from cracking the game and spreading it online via pirate sites, and it mostly works at accomplishing the task, at least for a while. However, Denuvo has caused performance issues in many games over the years, something the company has admitted in the past and then later denied, but yeah, they go back and forth on it. So players weren't pleased to learn just a week before launch that Crimson Desert would include it. One user in the comment under their post said, really scummy move adding Denuvo this last moment. Denuvo last week before launch. Glad I waited before buying. Saved me my money. Welp off the wish list it goes then. I'm not going to be forced to ask permission to play something that I pay you for, said one Reddit user, and they go on. Then, okay, Perlibus actually sent over a statement. What did they say? They said, quote, the benchmark videos and performance specs we released were all created with the exact same implementation of Denuvo that is in the launch build. Okay, well, that answered one question because I was going to ask, like, did the performance tests and stuff drop with the pre-Denuvo version or is it after Denuvo? But they're saying it's using Denuvo that's in the launch build, so it's the same performance. This includes the performance-based videos by Digital Foundry. It's important that reviewers and benchmarkers' experience with the game is ultimately representative of the final consumer's experience, they say. And as Dina K maybe says, it's the sneakiness that's a bad look. Do it or don't do it, but don't be weak sauce about it. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where they could have revealed it that they intended to do it weeks ago, but people would get upset, and so they waited till a week before and then they dropped it. Overall, this is just going to be a person-to-person matter. So some people really care about it and like obviously will cancel their pre-orders or wish lists or whatever and decide not to play it until like little behind the scenes stuff. Usually Denuvo, like, they're able to crack it pretty quickly. So if you're a player who really cares about it, what has historically happened with AAA games is once it's cracked, they strip it out because they don't want to pay licensing fees to Denuvo to use it because it's expensive. So they strip it out once it's been cracked because it's not worth it anymore. So if you're still interested in the game because you had it wishlisted or pre-ordered, the time will probably come where Denuvo is no longer a factor. So patience will be rewarded, I'm sure. But if you're somebody that like just doesn't care about it in particular, I don't think you're a bad person or you're like a sucker. If you don't care about it, that's fine. Most people don't know what Denuvo is. I know that's like a shocker if you are a PC gamer and you're in this, but for the average console player or even somebody that's newer to PC gaming, they have no idea what Denuvo is, and they probably don't care. Patience will make me God. Dude, I forgot they had that marketing. I forgot they did that. Well, what was that marketing push? Yeah. What was it? Extraction will make me God or something. What did they call that? I don't. Escape will make me God. Maybe I forgot about that. Yeah. You wouldn't download a car. You wouldn't steal a baby. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, let's see, most PC gamers don't either until they're told to be upset about it. Well, I think again, like if with so many of these types of topics and issues, if a game fails to meet one of your standards, like the job of the company is to sell you a product, and if it has some big asterisk that you have a problem with, then yeah, you shouldn't buy it. You know, like that's your right as a consumer not to buy it. Like, I respect you sticking to your guns. I think the key is to just like, I don't think you're a bad person if you don't really care about Denuvo implementation. Because to be fair, Denuvo's been implemented in pretty much every major AAA game of the last 15 years, it feels like. And there's been some incredible games that Denuvo has been implemented in. Whoops, there we go. It doesn't make you a bad person for like not having that on your do not cross the line list, you know. RE9 has it, but I didn't see anybody complain about it. Well, I'm sure if RE9 does have it, I'm not sure. I guess I can look up RE9 Denuvo. Let's see. I don't support Denuvo because I believe anti-tamper systems often hurt legitimate consumers more than they stop piracy, performance concerns, always online requirements. That's what this place was missing. Another Denuvo topic. Sorry. That's funny. I already bought the game, but unlike Denuvo fetishists like you, I care more about my game performance. Okay, dude, people get passionate about it. See what I mean? But yeah, apparently Requiem has Denuvo, and that didn't really come up with that discussion. Yeah, I think it's, if you really care about it, and for you, it's where you draw the line. Okay, cool, awesome. But I think that you shouldn't then like rage against people who don't share your same purity test that it didn't pass. Like, I think it makes sense why people are upset about it, why it might feel kind of sneaky. That's fine. I can see that. But I don't think that if, you know, Joe Smith doesn't care about Denuvo implementation, that doesn't make him a bad person or an idiot. It's just, okay. I didn't know what Denuvo was until today. Well, I think a lot of people don't know what it is because it's implemented kind of quietly in every major AAA game. And you only know about Denuvo if you're pretty deep into this, you know, the PC side of gaming. And so the Mormon, Joe Smith? Oh, I guess that is Joseph Smith. I didn't even realize. I was like, what's a really generic dude name? Joe Smith. I accidentally named the Mormon prophet. My bad. Anyway, yeah, if Joseph Smith wants to play Crimson Desert and he doesn't care about Denuvo, I don't think that makes him a bad person. I think that's this. It gets tricky when you bring up a religious leader in a hypothetical. So I'm just gonna move on. John Crimson, there you go. That's better. That's better. But anyway, there you go. There's the information. If you are somebody that really cares about Denuvo implementation and that's where you draw the line, now you can make an informed decision. And I respect that. Oh my God, a story just popped up that is way stupider than anything we were just, oh my God. Gaming Copilot. We're going to talk about this in a second. Anyway, if Jesus, Copilot for gaming, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. We live in the worst timeline. Anyway, there you go. So if you care about Denuvo implementation, there you go. Now you know. But otherwise, Crimson Desert performance-wise looks crazy and very, very impressive. He took my thing.